I did my workout already very early on, so I'm ready for you guys here.
Oh, nice. Nice. I'm ready too, man. I'm excited about this. So let me give everyone a quick introduction. So I met Jen's actually about a month and a half, 2 months ago. He's part of one of my really, really good friends down in Miami, Andres. He's a real estate investor, and we just kind of connected. And Andres sent me some of Jen's information. And this guy was on a web phone call interview, just kind of discussion that I had with a group of Miami traders, and he blew me away with his knowledge. So I reached out to him, started following him on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy is the real deal. Smart, intelligence. I'm gonna pick your brain, man. But first, tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, what's your specialty in life, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeremy. So, well, a pleasure to be here. Not sure if anything is true. He just said if I'm smart or whatever, right? But I'm in technology, and I've been in technology for over 25 years, right? And, it's sad because I realized that actually yesterday, when Microsoft announced 25 years anniversary on Windows 95, and I was back in Germany back then selling computers. And, I was obviously not 18 yet, but that was my introduction to being in technology. And that's why Jeremy invited me here to this group and talk a little bit about some of the stocks and the technology behind the stocks and what the companies actually are doing. Because some folks were posting in that group about Fastly, and then they talked about Cloudflare. And I said, wait a minute, guys, these are, they're competing with each other because they're both CDNs, right? And that's why I just joined here and see if I can add any value. And Jeremy, I prepared a couple of things in stocks, but just hand it back to you. I live in Miami. I'm 41. I work for a public traded company, so I have to be careful what I'm saying about competitors and so forth. I told you that,
Yep.
but
Yep.
there's some companies I can talk about, and some
Totally.
it's really background on what's going on in the market and why people should look at technology stocks and what would make sense in the portfolio, right? So hand it back to you, man.
I love it. I love it. And I appreciate that intro. Cause yeah, it was amazing as we were going through, we were talking about different, like you said, different cloud stocks and what they can do and how they're performing. Let's just talk about Fastly for a little bit. For those who might not know, can you explain what this company does?
Well, in very simple terms, right? Let's say you have a website, and there's an update on the website. Let's say CNN, right? CNN updates the website, puts new content out there. It will be cached across the world in different data centers on different portals, right? And that's called a content delivery network, CDN, right? And that's just making sure that you have the same speed and experience to get that data on your device, on your laptop, on your phone. You don't need to wait until you fetch the data from a data center out in China over here to the US or vice versa, right? So that's really what's going on there. So it's a cache.
Got it. Got it. And so when we analyze newer tech companies, what's something that as a trader or investor, what do you think the three main things we should look at would be?
Okay, so that's a great question. So I work for a company out in Silicon Valley. We just got acquired by F5 Networks in January. And when you're in the Valley, I fly there, or I flew there every month for a week or so. It's important for us as traders to know who invested in that company, who is behind it. At my particular company, it was Google, right? And Kleiner Parker Perkins, very Eric Schmidt and a lot of folks, because they were literally next door in Mountain View, right? So that's the history of that. But I look for who is backing the company and who's behind it, right? That's one thing. And then the other thing is who runs the show and who is on the board of advisors, right? So that's typically what I look for. That's also how I chose to work for that company, and how I choose my career path, the companies I work for.
Got it. So when you're doing that research, do you do it on YouTube? Do you go into their investor relations? How do you find out who's backing it?
So there's several tools I use. I mean, maybe some folks are familiar with with a website called CB Insights, right? That's one of the CB Insights. That's where you can get data like that. It's a business intelligence platform.
Gotcha. That's super useful.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got a subscription there. Yep, and they have great charts. They have like a lot of valuable data, and even if you just sign up for the newsletter, there's a lot of things in there.
Okay.
That's where I get my data from.
Yeah.
Yep.
Killer. What's your thoughts on telemedicine?
Very good, because that's what I used during the pandemic when I realized I didn't feel well. Same as Andres, like folks, if you sit at home, you don't feel well, you don't have a way to get tested or go somewhere to figure out what's going on. You don't want to sit in a waiting room with 15 other people. And it's absolutely the key here, right? I logged in, I said to the doctor, hey, I don't feel well. He said, well, go get tested for COVID-19. I said, well, I cannot because I have stomach problems. He's like, well, go do this, and that, right? So I didn't want to wait 4 hours in the car. So that was awesome. Just dialed in, and that's absolutely what's going on, right? Datadog is a great stock to be in because it will be the future.
Are there any other stocks in that industry that you're watching, Jens?
Not in that particular industry. I'm focusing more on like I would say my expertise is in networking, cybersecurity, cloud, and that's something we want to talk about later on. Cloud, remind me that talk about that. But to your question here, unfortunately, I have not followed a lot. But digital health is a huge growth market, obviously, because most of the data is stored there, and I'm not sure if anyone as tired as me going to a urgent care, wherever you go, you have to fill out 15 pages by hand. And you always wonder why they don't use an iPad, or, why do I have to fill that out? The same questions over and over, right? So it's because of PII and HIPAA compliance and so forth. So otherwise I would store it on the phone and just send it over to them. But I think that's one of the industries, digital health, very, very growth market and in the future. Absolutely.
Heck yeah, man. That's super good to know. So when you're talking about one of your specialties being cybersecurity, let's dive into that a little bit. Obviously, it's something that is going to be so impactful and massively important. Are you looking at ETFs like HACK, the cybersecurity ETF? Do you think it'd be better to invest in individual companies? Which something that you're looking at?
I mean, you teach that in your courses, and you talk about that a lot. Like ETFs are always good if you want to have the whole, segment, the whole market, and rather than following just one stock, because then something can happen. The same happened with Fastly. Just to use that example real quick, when they disclosed that TikTok was their largest customer, the market tanked because people were like, oh my God, what's going to happen there? Well, it's not a problem, right? Because they still will use it. It's not, they won't call Fastly and say, hey, we won't use you anymore, because they have the contract and the whole infrastructure and technology sits on it, right? So to do a CDN migration takes a long time, right? But to answer your question, I'm focusing on individual stocks because I see what's going on in the market, and that's something folks here on the call may want to know as well. So I used to work for value-added resellers. So I represented all those companies throughout my career before I joined now a manufacturer myself, right? So I had all those tools on the truck. You can name a couple of them: CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, Fortinet. All those products were on my line card, if you will, and that's what we were reselling. Right now, I represent just one individual company, but the point here is I'm always looking for ETFs to see what the market does, and then on the other hand, I focus on some individual stocks because I know when there's I would say a trend coming up. Right now, we all see a trend in endpoint protection, because for work from home, endpoint protection means your device is an endpoint, your iPad, your laptop. That's something which is key in this whole work from home initiative going forward.
Because this is an initiative that's not going away. I mean, we're talking the telecommuting, working from home. COVID forced that into full-on public participation.
Correct. Yeah, that's why that's an uptrend. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very interesting. So when you say endpoint, I mean, are there specific companies that are working to make that better, to make that safer, that you like?
Well, yeah, CrowdStrike is one of those companies, right? And in technology, maybe that's I don't know who your audience is, but I just want to throw it out there. If we in technology look for trends, you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant. You can pull that up real quick. Maybe I can.
Ticker is that, or what is that?
That's I just put that into the chat real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Here, Gartner Magic Quadrant. So that's where you can see the players in one of those markets, and I will do that for you real quick here for, yeah, Gartner Magic Quadrant. You can see, just pull one up real quick.
Sure.
What do we have here?
Let's see if I can.
That will be business intelligence. Just take, yeah, I will just Google it myself real quick and check on it, because that's, yeah. Let's take a look at that one. Yeah, Microsoft is the leader in that space, and then you see, yeah, you see the leaders, you see left upper hand challengers and niche players and visionaries. So if you have really no clue, I mean, there's so many areas I don't know anything about, but if you don't know what's going on in that market, you want to educate yourself on that. That's really helpful to understand what's going on in that technology space.
Shoot, I've never even heard of this, dude. You are blowing my mind. Blowing my mind. That's really, really cool. And again, that's why I wanted Jen to come on, ladies and gentlemen, because again, as I was talking to him, sometimes people just jump out to you like, oh man, this person knows his stuff. This guy is one of those people. So I appreciate that. Yeah, man, look at Microsoft. I mean, talking about leaders, like they are full on in there.
Yeah. Let's talk about Microsoft real quick, if I can, because that's something when I went for a run this morning. You guys need to know that Jeremy, I mean, you know that he's a 100-miler, right? You ran 100 miles?
Yep.
Yep. So that's how we also connected, because he's following the same people in that space, and I'm going for one myself. I'm training for it. So this morning when I thought about how can I add value to this group, I'm sure some of you guys know that, but not all people know that Amazon is not only selling e-commerce and Microsoft is not selling only software anymore. They're both the largest contenders by length, and there's nobody behind it in the cloud space, right? And my job for years is talking about digital transformation. Digital transformation means so many things, but my job was to take people or organizations and their teams, or work with them together with the teams together, take the whole infrastructure out of the data center into the cloud, right? Amazon right now is at 31% market share, and Microsoft Azure, that's the cloud product, is at 25% or something, right? So if you take a look at that business, if you would take out AWS, that's the Amazon Web Services part, cloud structure, cloud infrastructure, out of that business, it's a whole entity for itself, right? So that's why we see that huge spike on Amazon as well, over and over, because people are just like spinning up data centers in the cloud. And that means people want, or organizations, I always say organizations go out of the hardware business. They don't want to manage hardware anymore, because you have to make sure they're patched, you make sure they're the latest and greatest, and then the resellers come in and want to sell you every 3 years the new stuff, which is bad for Cisco, right? So Cisco is in the hardware business, is another stock for networking and so forth, right? But I want to stay on the cloud piece here real quick. Hopefully that's valuable for some of those. I saw Alex just wrote, he says there's many folks on retailers, many retailers will not use AWS because it's funding their competitor. Yeah, and then they go to Azure. That's true. It's always I would say a problem, because it's a problem with the competition. Yeah, because your infrastructure lives in there. But I want to go back to this whole point of cloud. Microsoft will keep going up, and Amazon, yes. Even if the government will say, hey, Jeff Bezos, you have to split off AWS because you're too big in that space, which will happen, I would say, I predict that in the next 24 months, that there will be a split of AWS, because it's just a huge part of the business.
Wow, that is really, really intriguing. Now, do you think that a stock split would help, or they have to fully, totally make it an entirely new separate company?
No, stocks, well, look, there's so many factors they could play in, and it's above my pay grade. But what I predict is that AWS will be still part of Amazon, yes, but they have to spin it off, right? And a quick fun fact, if somebody's interested in why AWS actually went into their business, they were just managing so much infrastructure for their own for their own warehouses and all that, and that's how they spun it up. And you can Google that yourself. But somebody had that smart idea and said, "Hey, why don't we offer that capacity for our data centers to other folks and make a business out of it?" And it's phenomenal. It took off in 2012, 13, and it blew my mind how that business took off. It was just like phenomenal to see, and how easy to spin up servers in an environment like that. You swipe your credit card, you have immediately CPU power and everything else you need to run a server in the cloud environment, right? So if people just think Amazon is only in that business, no, they're in the e-commerce business. They're also in this industry, and they're market leaders. And what Amazon keeps doing, not only to copy products in there's, like, let's say if you buy light bulbs or you buy hand soap or whatever, Amazon comes up with their own products. They copy competitors or buy them, right? So that happened to a couple of other companies in the industry already. That's what was really interesting. And then let's talk about Microsoft another second. Microsoft with Microsoft Azure, ACURE, that's their cloud product, also acquired LinkedIn, if you guys recall. $28 billion acquisition, right? It's owned by Microsoft. Skype is owned by Microsoft. And I saw you using Slack. My company is now using Microsoft Teams, even though we're using Zoom, but Microsoft Teams, we're not on Slack anymore for this organization, but we're using Microsoft Teams. It's just included in the Office 365 subscription, right? So unbelievable what's happening there. It's another war. If you're going to look to buy Slack, Teams will take a lot of market share. And there's a lot of rumors out there as well already.
Man, and I think with Microsoft and the power that it has, do you think that there's any reason for it to buy out Slack and then merge the two, or just own its other competitor in that industry?
Well, I would not make any predictions there. I don't know enough about it. I just see what's happening in the market, that Teams is now part of the subscription to Office 365. And traditionally, if you're a large organization, a Fortune 100, and you have an enterprise license agreement and what we call ELA, you can easily buy that subscription going forward. That's what I would say.
Gotcha. Man, that's quite incredible. So in this situation, when you're talking about data in the cloud, are there any companies that are doing this internationally? Is AWS, is it mostly US based, or are there other companies focused on India or South America?
Well, AWS, hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. You were like going in and out real quick. I know you recorded, but to answer your question correctly, you said if other countries or continents are using AWS as well, only in North America?
Yeah, definitely. But also, are there other companies that are trying to capture market share for cloud management for other countries?
Absolutely. So to stay with the e-commerce retailers real quick, Alibaba has also their own cloud infrastructure, but they don't own a lot market share. But IBM has their own cloud, then Oracle has their own cloud. And it's just, if Jeremy and Jens would say, hey, let's write a business plan and go into the cloud business, it will be hard to find money for it because data centers cost so much money. Right, Facebook has their own data centers. Google they have their own data centers. They don't go to AWS and spin up their stuff there. So they're building their own infrastructures, and getting into that cloud business, it's really cut through and low margin. So hopefully that answers your question. Well, maybe AWS is available all over the world, and like I said, with a credit card, you can spin up instances in a split second.
That is killer. What's your thoughts on Cloudflare? Are they doing that as well? Are they trying to get into that space?
So I'm glad you bring that up. So Cloudflare is a competitor to Fastly, right? So their CDN business, they do a lot of other stuff as well, when you talk about hosting and so forth. But I don't want to go too deep into that. But Cloudflare is not a cloud provider per se, right? For what AWS does.
Gotcha. So what is their niche then?
Well, they offer a variety of services, and they're also building some business around cybersecurity, right? So replication firewall, and that's going too deep into technology. But they're building additional services on top of it. So they're competing with CDNs like Fastly, and I cannot talk too much about it. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
Because
That's
of my company. Yep.
That's totally fair. So when you're going through and looking at some of these companies, I mean, you mentioned that one thing that you really, really like to look for is, who's backing and who's investing in it. What are two other things that you're really kind of keeping an eye out for when you're looking at buying or investing or researching some of these companies?
Yeah. So who backed the company, right? And then who is running the sales team, right? So you can look for the strong board C-level, right? Who is the CRO or chief revenue officer? That's also really a key element to gauge how quickly a company will take off, right? And how quickly a company can take market share from the old company for the let's say the initial big hitters, if you will, right? There's always a contender going into a niche. And I'm glad you asked it, because that's another fun story about Oracle Cloud. When we talked about Amazon and Microsoft, Oracle Cloud never took off, even though it's a great company, great products, but I don't see them anywhere near to grow as fast as Microsoft or Amazon in that space. But to answer your question about what I'm looking for, as another fact will be how quickly are they going into APAC or EMEA, right? Not only North America. You can do your research on LinkedIn, or that's also another thing. How many people are on LinkedIn? I look up who's connected with those folks, and you can do, when I do my research on investors, I do the same. Like, who are they connected with? What are their previous investments? Who knows who, basically, in Silicon Valley. So that's one of those things I would say are some of the metrics I use.
Now, when you're doing that, are these all public companies that you're looking at, Jens, or do you also look at private ones?
I look at private ones as well, and then to see if maybe one of the bigger ones is trying to snatch them up before they go IPO, right? That's basically what happened to me with the company I work for, because we got acquired before we went IPO. So that's usually either get bought or you go public, right? Or you fall.
Right.
So there's three things, right?
Right.
Hopefully not the latter.
So
let's talk. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, can you explain to people what Cloudera does? Because I feel like they have like a specific niche in like some of the medical sector as far as from some of the data.
All right, Cloudera. So let's see real quick. I haven't looked at them in a while about stock, right? So you're saying they're going down. They're trading at $12 right now. Data engineering, data warehousing, and machine learning. Well, that's an important factor in your stack if you run a company, right? You want to have information around what's going on with your data, right? But I have not looked at them in a long time. So,
do you feel that's a buzzword that's being overly used, or people or companies are actually really getting into that, Jens, machine learning?
Oh yeah, it's overused right now, because everybody has machine learning and AI and what have you, because it's a buzzword, yes. But you only or your software and your machine learning is only as smart as the people putting the data in, or the data you collect,
right,
if you will.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. So you can use that buzzword easily, but it's all about data digestion, data validation, and more importantly, one of the key things. Remember that what's the Time magazine? The data is the new oil. It's already like a couple of years back, but or 2-3 years back. Data is the new oil. It definitely is. So when we talk about data warehousing and machine learning, what happens with the data, right? With databases back in the day, you run a query with SQL, right? Or if you remember another Microsoft product, Visual Basic, Access 2.0. These are like all terms and tools you use with Microsoft platforms 20 years ago. We don't need to deal with that anymore, because you write a quick script and then you have a bot and just run over that. So you don't need to extract data.
So what are companies like Mongo Database and Datadog? What do they do?
Oh, these are like very two hot companies, and man, I wish you would have given me a little bit more data on those companies. You want to know data, because I prepared for the other ones. But Datadog they monitor services, for cloud applications. And what does it mean? There's another company called there's Sumo Logic. There's a cyber security company, but Datadog is really out there. And if you Google it, you can check on the Gartner quadrant again. They're competing with Splunk, right? SEM.
Yeah. Yep.
And their key differentiator here is that they're only they're SaaS based, right? And they're also managing data and for large corporations, right? But they include also security tools on top of it to secure your data. But these are really technology companies you should look out for. Datadog is one of the disruptors in that market.
Got it. So I mean, this is amazing, man. I really am a big fan of this because you got to kind of get to see where people are at and who's doing what and where. I mean, like Salesforce, really interesting that they're pretty far to the right. I mean, you're talking about visionaries. So you got these two, and then you got Salesforce right there. And that's huge.
Well, here, that's for business intelligence, right? That Magic Quadrant you just pulled up there. Let's do this. Let's do Gartner Magic Quadrant for, let's say cloud, or maybe you asked.
Yeah, we can go look at, because this is business intelligence, but we can track down. How did I get here?
I think that's really the holy grail to, let's say we're looking at, I just pull, well, no, I cannot because that's too close to my business. So let's look at this here real quick. Okay.
Data warehouse automation.
I'm just looking up Datadog, Gartner Magic Quadrant.
This is cool.
But
man.
to summarize real quick, like another thing while I'm pulling that up, guys, what I just talked about, who's backing the company, who's on the sales team, where do they come from, what's their go-to market, and then also, what are their press releases? Obviously, we all read press releases, but if you see a new appointed CRO, or another fun fact in the Valley, everybody says, so, oh yeah, maybe we go public this year. Well, you don't even have a CFO yet. If you don't have a CFO, you can't go public. That's just a saying in the Valley. So,
yeah.
So I'm pulling this up. I'm trying to find a good one for the team here on the call. Okay.
And by the way, man, this is so helpful, dude. Thank you so much. Incredible.
All right, so that's another thing, guys.
Dan said this is a great interview. I told you it was going to be good. Jens is the man.
Well,
he's always sending me stuff. It's just like amazing.
Man.
Okay, so Datadog Infrastructure Review, Gartner.com reviews. Okay.
So, and that's called Gartner Peer Insights. And that's a review of actual customers using that product. So it's not just marketing. Gartner Magic Quadrant is basically a team of analysts in the technology space reviewing the technology and putting it up. But this one, the rating is from actual customers. So that's something I'm looking at as well. So you see 41 reviews. Click on it real quick. Jeremy, please. These are actual, so you see here, Datadog.
Oh, right here,
ratings.
got it.
So, yeah. Reviews, okay? So you can see actual clients talk about the technology, right? So and if you see good rating here, that means, they probably will be around for a little longer than the other ones, right?
Yeah, so this is B with a billion, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Very cool.
Yep, you can use that as data points, and we just use Datadog real quick as the reference because that's what I want to show you. I have it here in my notes. Gartner is really the thing where you can get detailed information on the business model and so forth. I know everybody's using maybe MarketWatch on Yahoo and so forth, but if you want to go deep into a stock or you want to know what Palo Alto Networks does or Fortinet, these companies have been around for a long time. Excuse me.
Man, this is incredible insight. Thank you so much. And you mentioned that you had done some research on some other companies. Was that mostly Microsoft and Amazon, or did you have any other ones that you had poured a lot of time into?
I felt that's really important to mention that because you read a lot about digital transformation, and digital transformation means so many things, not only getting out of the hardware business and moving stuff to the cloud. That's a conversation I've been having with customers for a long time. But fun fact for some of the folks on the call here is that some companies actually are looking to pull stuff back out of the cloud in the data center, because being in the cloud and living in the cloud costs a lot of money. The consumption is elastic, right? So if an application developer would make a mistake and just test something in production or uses a database query, it will, the bill will go up, right? Or if you get attacked by attack means if you host a website on a cloud infrastructure in the cloud and you get attacked, that means your traffic will go up immensely, right? A DDoS attack means, you take a bot network and take a whole amount, or like, let's say 1,000 computers attacking a login on your website, or Amazon gets hit all day long, right? On Amazon.com, get hit all day long, then the traffic goes up because it's unnatural traffic. It's not like Jeremy, Jens, or someone else looking for new running shoes. It's like a bot system trying to attack you and then take you down. So that's the thinking behind it. But that's also something why security is important. You have to protect your website from an attack like that. Not only you lose sales because people because your website is offline, people are not able to buy something, right? But you also are getting hit with a large bill.
How are these companies incorporating platform management tools like Wix and Shopify, in your opinion?
Okay, so Wix, for instance, you can create websites there, right?
Yep. I mean,
Shopify,
is Wix doing a lot of partnership with a lot of these companies? Are they trying to blend everything in together simultaneously to make everything more conducive?
well, typically how how an IT department works, they have their own folks and they go out and do the research. As we just looked at with Gartner, they go to trade shows, they look at that. But if there's a strategic partnership with one of those companies in between, I don't think so. That's maybe on a case-by-case basis, but in that case, I don't know if there's anything.
Gotcha. Are you familiar with Altruix at all?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Are there any machine learning companies that you think would be really, really intriguing to keep an eye on?
Machine learning companies, I would say, AI machine learning goes in tandem, right? Because usually artificial intelligence and machine learning are both necessary for each other in terms of technology, right? When you want to build a product or you want to offer a service, everything that's maybe a key element here. When we talk about infrastructure and getting out of the cloud into the cloud, rather than hosting your own data center, because it not only takes energy, you have to rent the space, you have people to manage it, you have to make sure if something breaks, you can call people on staff. That's all outsourced, right? So that's why most of the organizations are leaning towards software as a service, everything as a service, right? You have predictable costs, and it goes into the P&L analysis. When you talk about, are you renting it or are you buying it? And it's really the case by case basis, from how you write it off and so forth.
Yeah.
But this company I have not heard of, so maybe I can Google it, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. No worries, man. No worries. I mean, you're not gonna know about all of them.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe we can go ahead.
In a situation like Rackspace, I mean, they're coming out. Do you think that was poor timing to re-IPO again, or is that something that they're trying to convert instead of physical storage into something more cloud-based?
Well, since we're in Miami, I can tell you a story about the Nap of Americas, which is now owned by Equinix, right? So I mean, the founder sold the company for a lot of money. He's an icon here in Miami, but the whole story around how he built that it takes time for another interview. But the data center business is really very, very problematic because I just talked about you need so many people to work on it, and then from a strategic standpoint, where do you put it? Because it's all about latency. If your data lives in the Miami data center and you want to call on a database from Denver or Colorado or from from New York City, you have the latency in between, right? Even though we have fiber, it's one thing.
Yeah. You still there?
I'm just looking at, yeah, I'm still here. I was trying to find an example out of the Miami stock chat here. There's some data in there. We talked about Roku a lot, but then Datadog is in there as well. I mean, Facebook, if you talk about Facebook, they're going up and down a little bit as well, but Facebook is running their own data centers, right? So Facebook has huge data centers, and they even went so far over the last year, they're building their own computers. They build everything themselves. Google does the same. They don't go to the big box players anymore. They just build compute. They buy everything in China, if you will, and just build up their own infrastructure. So
really,
yep, they don't buy. Yeah, everything is homemade, if you will.
Man,
but let's talk
I did not know that. That is incredible.
Yeah,
that's
and
really,
the warehouse.
really
Then another problem with the warehouse. Another problem with the whole infrastructure is cooling, right? If you ever walked into a data center, it's loud in there because all the fans are blowing all the time. If you're in a I would say geography where energy is really expensive, your cost goes up. That's why most of the data centers are not only living because of that, they're living in areas where there's no hurricanes, right? So some of them move data centers to other places. That's what I was trying to make the point about having a data center. I live right next to it here in Miami. I'm looking at it right now. Cat 5 protected from Cat 5 hurricanes and all that, and cool power and cooling energy is very expensive down here because it's hot all the time. So you have to cool down those computers.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that got me really interested in Ethereum is when I went to Iceland, because they have a lot of their mining and data centers for their Ethereum mining. It's purely geothermically cooled and heated, so you're talking about using the actual natural resources to keep everything either hot and or cold, which is really incredible.
Yeah, and I think I read last week. I mean, they're going as far as having them, in areas where it's really cold, like Antarctica and so forth. There's some of them.
Oh, that's too cool! I didn't think about that. Oh man, so like Alaska or maybe Antarctica, Greenland, Iceland, places like that, huh?
Yep.
Wow. So I'm trying to, maybe my brain's already kind of trying to figure out if that's like some type of investment opportunity for just some commercial real estate. I mean, that's a really, really intriguing term to think about.
But the problem with that is really when you have a data center that far away is problematic with latency. I just talked about it. Latency is, you send a signal or you request data. Hopefully everybody knows that data is binary, like 0 or 1, right? And then you get the request back. And the biggest problem is the latency, but more importantly, there's a term called cold storage. That means if you put data into the cloud and you don't need it quickly back, you get actually a discount on it. So believe it or not, some big companies are still storing data on tape, believe it or not. So you would go in a data center and they put it on the old cool cassettes, and if something happens to that data center, they would go and drive somewhere and take the tape out of the warehouse and bring it back to the organization and try to recover. Yeah, that's still happening out there, believe me.
Man,
there's some other
wow, that is some amazing insight. Thomas says, I can see it now, hiring for jobs to manage data centers in Antarctica. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, what goes into someone managing a data center? Do you know anything about that?
Goes into what? Sorry.
Like managing a data center. I mean, like, I don't even know. I literally have no idea what that even would entail.
Oh, managing a data center. Well, it's comprised of like a lot of servers, right? Server racks, and managing it. You can manage it from far away. If you and I would say, okay, we want to manage a data center, you only have to have boots on the ground if a cable goes off or a hard boot. That's not a yeah, that's not a problem, right? But guys, I mean, yesterday somebody talked about Tesla all day long. Tesla is in the business of so many things, right? Not only the car, because just imagine the data they're collecting on a daily basis. You know, they know so much about the patterns of the people using their cars. They can collect so much data around a lot of other things we're not even thinking about as of yet. It's also a technology company. Everybody says, oh, electric cars, this and that. Imagine the data they collect, how many times you use your car, where you drive to, and then importantly, 5 or 10 years from now, your car sits, I mean, that's already talked about, your car sits in front of your house and you don't need it, and your neighbor wants to use your car, it just opens it with the app and you share the cost of it. It's already, you can do that. Like, hey, Jeremy, I need your car for an hour, and you say, yeah, no problem. I open it with my app. I drive to Publix or Whole Foods and come back. Your car sits there, right? That's car sharing. That's all the things you can do going forward with being Tesla.
Amazing stuff, man. Incredible insight. You mentioned another company in that chat group. What company was that? Do you remember?
Not really. We talked about CDNs, but I think CDNs, we explained that. We talked about cloud. We talked about CrowdStrike. I mean, that's endpoint protection. Yeah, and I want to steer away a little bit from the cybersecurity, because, you know, that's the space I work in. So I don't want to predict anything in that space, because cybersecurity as per se is huge right now.
Yeah,
any company in there.
Power band solutions. You were kind of thinking something through this, right?
Oh, this one. Oh, yeah. That's one of my one of the companies I did some research on, and it's just interesting to see what they're coming up with. It's a Canadian company, but breaking into the market.
Yeah.
And there's huge upside. If anybody saw ever Carvana.
Yeah, man, Carvana, what an absolute monster. Look at this stock.
Yep.
It was at 20. It was at 20, man, weeks ago.
Yep. And that's the space they're playing in.
Wow. Wow. Man,
so,
this is
and maybe we should take some questions from your folks here on the call. If you have any company I can talk about, or talk, you know, hey, if they ever wonder, if everybody knows actually what the company does, they're daily looking, oh, Fastly went up, Fastly went down, damn it, you know.
Yeah, agreed. It's always a lot better to know and have a lot of deep insight, because again, at some point, you don't have to be in everything to be in something. And when you're trading and you're really focused and you know why and you know where and you know what, you can make some really, really good plays, like on Tesla. I mean, I was screaming for Tesla to go up at 170, and everyone's like, you're an idiot. It's just, the thing is, like, you have to know a lot about specific companies, and the more research you do and the more reasons you do it, you can take a more realistic approach into something, right?
Absolutely. Some questions. So someone is asking, so Hector is asking about Cisco. Well, Cisco is like a huge player, and Cisco typically goes out there and just says, you know what, we don't like that competition. We just buy the company. And I love to read. Just a fun fact here, real quick. I have probably over 400 books here in my office, but there's one book I really recommend when somebody asks me about Cisco. You want to read a book from John Chambers. He's the former CEO of Cisco, and he built Cisco from nothing to multi-billion dollars, right? So Cisco is always a good stock, but it's a long hold. And Cisco, I mean, I haven't looked at the quarterly results lately, and I don't own any stock in there, but Cisco has been around for a long time and will be around for a long time. Yeah. There's some contenders out there trying to eat their breakfast. That would be Juniper. That's a good question. So let's do this. Okay, so Cisco is in the networking space, but they're also doing everything, security. Even they own WebEx. Just fun fact, probably people know that WebEx is owned by Cisco. And if you read that book, Connecting the Dots, you learn a lot about technology. Lessons for leadership in a startup world. I can write it in there. Anybody investing in technology should read that book. How about that? Boom.
Yeah, throw it in the chat. We'll connecting the dots. Okay. And who's that by?
That's John Chambers. He's the former CEO of Cisco.
Got
He
it.
was there for 25 years. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, it's you learn so much how he battled against how he battled competitors and so forth. And I just want to finish real quick on that topic here. So Cisco has competitors in the networking space, for instance. That would be Juniper. That would be Juniper is really out there. And then we have let's say Juniper is one of the biggest competitors, and we have that saying: if you go to work for Cisco, you compete always against Juniper, because Juniper is working in the same space, right? So it's like changing a religion, because people like Juniper. Yeah, it's honestly it's like everybody. They swear on Cisco. You basically are not able to change anybody's mind.
Wow.
Aruba got bought by, Gregory says Aruba, and he likes using Juniper. Juniper is great. Aruba got bought by HP, another big company out there. So John Chambers. Sorry guys. Aruba.
Very cool, man. Some mind-blowing information, brother. I really, really appreciate it. This is so very, very insightful, because again, my goal really is just to let people know that there's so many avenues to decide and to read and to determine and to build a case. Because really, when you're trading and or investing, it's about building a case for what you believe in, why you believe in it, what's powerful about it, what's good about it, what can grow, why it can grow. And the more conviction and information you have, the better you can do in the longer term.
Yep.
So I'll
awesome. Sorry, I didn't know too much about Cloudera, but if anybody has more questions, I'm happy to come back at some point in time. We can get a short list or something. And if people want to get a hold of me, just contact Jeremy and I answer questions. Happy to help.
Yeah, and I also do follow Jens on Twitter. If you guys want to reach out to your boy, look how handsome this guy is. You make most of your money as a male model, right? Is that true?
Well, that's not true. I did it for a long time, but like I said, no, it's actually I usually don't use that anymore in my introductions, because it's when I was doing the runway and all that in Milan back in the day, that was before Instagram, before Facebook and all that. But right, I did it actually, as a fun fact, for 3-4 years full time all over the world. But that was actually around when I was studying computer science, so I had the choice, sitting there listening to all the algorithm development, or catch a plane and fly down to Milan and do the runway. So guess what I did?
That's right, man. Beauty and brains. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it, dude. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. And how was your run today? How far did you put in?
I actually just did 3 miles, and then I did sprints with our greyhound. So I throw the ball, she runs after the ball, and I run behind her. I'm not kidding, because she's so fast, and I want her to run away. So that's what I did. Main focus was really on strength and speed this morning. So
killer, man. I love it, dude. You're such a legend. Thank you so much for being here, Jens. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for your information, your wealth of knowledge.
It was a pleasure. Hopefully everybody got some out of it, and a lot of fun. Always fun talking to you, Jeremy. Thanks, everyone.
Man, you're absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. Great info, team. Again, real life trading is a community that spans so many cities and places and countries, and knowledge is phenomenal. And Andres, thank you for the introduction to your boy. And Andres, I'm bringing you on the show in September, because September is real estate month. Ladies and gentlemen, real estate month, we're going to be bringing on some professionals in real estate and just talking to them and getting some insight, and looking forward to that. It's going to be amazing. And as far as just continuing our discussion really quick, we are still in Abbott Laboratories short. This is just a really quick day trade. So what I figured I will do is I do think that's going to eventually reach this target. It just might take a little bit. Let's go ahead and lower our stop a little bit lower. And then I'll go look at QDEL. There's 6 people in on QDEL, and I'm not one of them, but I'll keep tracking. And I'll keep lowering the stop on Abbott Laboratories again, most likely just a hedge. Very, very small position, not small position, small win right now, but small loss, worst case scenario, small win, kind of best case scenario. QDEL. So if you're in this one, some people got filled, some people didn't. I didn't think we would get skipped over on it. I almost was sure that this would fill. I mean, we're talking a penny. So good old August back in pure form on QDEL. But Kevin Stone's in it, Pablo's in it, Graham's in it. And if you are in this one, we'll end up increasing the stops a little bit. Target 2, right? Once it breaks the 20 EMA, you should be good to go. That's going to be the big resistance, is the 20. So we'll increase the stop a little bit more for those who are in that one in just a moment. SPY, talk of the day, right? Everyone's waiting for SPY to hit 350 because you all know what I'm doing when it hits 350. Going to cash, selling everything that's profitable. And we got close. We got 10 cents away. So if it doesn't hit it today, maybe tomorrow, maybe I'll actually even increase it by 20 cents or something. And Tesla is Rampage Jackson right now. So Tesla is scorching the very earth on which we walk. It's at 2246.40. So I'm loving that. It's just going to keep going. So Tesla, I mean, had a really, really nice gap today. So it's just going to keep on rocking and rolling. But again, if you're watching this interview, thank you for being a part of it, and thanks for listening.